Hi and welcome to this video. My name is Ida and today I am going to talk about the structure of functional harmony, and what that means is basically how the different chords relate to one another. And why do you need to know this, you might ask? Well, it can be very handy if you're trying to figure out the chords in a song, or if you know the chords but you want to transpose the song to sing it in another key, or if you want to write your own music and you're trying to find the chords to fit to your own melodies. And this is a part of my beginner ukulele series, but you can obviously use this to play any instrument, and I'm going to demonstrate on the piano because I think it's easier to understand this if you also see kind of the layout of the piano keys. So if I am filming in my piano, we can see that we have this octave from C to C. This is C. That's the one beneath the two black keys. And then we have D, E, F, G, A, and B. And back to C again. So there are 7 notes in a C major scale. Let me play it for you. And if you're anything like me, you want to hear the last C as well. Yes, finally home. And we have 5 black keys. So we have 12 notes in all. And between all of the keys, there is a half step. So as you saw when I played the C major scale, we are not playing even steps, because here we are playing a whole step, and then a whole step, and then a half step. A whole, a whole, a whole, and a half to come back home. So, what happens if we try to play from D to D? Will we get a major scale as well? Let's try it! It's a scale, alright, but it doesn't sound quite the same. So, to mimic those kinds of steps that we had when we did the major scale, we need to use some of the black keys as well. And what that means is that we need to add some sharps or some flats. And in the D major scale, we happen to have 2 black keys. And that's this one, F sharp, and this one, C sharp. So if I am going to play from D to D using those notes, it sounds like this. It's a major scale. So now we know 2 things. We know that when we play from C to C, we get a major scale without having to use any of the black keys or any sharps or flats. And we know that in order to mimic that major scale from D to D, we need to include 2 black keys. And now I just played the major scale, but this is also true if we are talking about the musical key. And maybe this is a bit confusing if you're new to this terminology, because the piano keys are also called keys, and the musical key is something else. So to not confuse you too much, I will just keep calling the piano keys, and when we are talking about the musical key, I will say key. And what the musical key means is kind of the landscape that we operate within when we are playing a song. So as you heard when I played the C major scale, I kind of want to go back to C. So that's a very basic way of seeing how music works, because we have a home, or we have like a root note or a root chord, C major, and when we are in the C major key, the rest of the chords and the rest of the music are trying to create some kind of tension as to want us to come back to C. And I know that's a very simplified way of looking at music, but if you're new to the whole concept of key, then maybe that will help you understand it. So when I played the D major scale, I needed to play on 2 black keys. And maybe you're wondering if there is a way to know how many sharps or flats there will be in the different scales or the different keys? And yes, there is. This is where the circle of fifths come in. And I really like the circle of fifths just because it's this nice kind of system that puts everything in place, and I like that kind of thing. But what it really is a system to see how different keys and different notes relate to each other. I will now put in a nice little picture that I will make of the circle of fifths. So what it is a circle, and then we have the different keys around the circle. And a fifth is this interval right here. So it's not 5 half steps. So in the major scale, it will be the fifth note. So at the top of our circle of fifths, we have C. And as we know, C have no sharps or flats. And then if we move one step, meaning 1/5 from C, we get G. And to play a G major scale, we need 1 sharp. So this one. And then 1/5 up from G, that's D. We already played the D major scale, and we know that the D major scale, or the D major key, has 2 sharps. These two. And then we can move around the circle of fifths to count how many sharps we will need to use. If you are looking at the other side of the circle, then we have C at the top still, and then 1/5 down. So if we move 1/5 down from C, we have F. And on the other side of the circle, we have the flats. So F has 1 flat. And then we can move another 5th down, and then we will get B flat, and B flat will have 2 flats. And then we can keep moving down that side as well, going 5ths down to count how many flats there is in these keys. So far we have mentioned the major keys, but there are of course also minor keys, and they work kind of the same way. If we play from A to A using only the white keys, we will get this. And this is an A minor scale. And you can hear that it sounds kind of different from a major scale because the steps are divided differently. And now we know another interesting thing. We know that A minor and C major both have no sharps and no flats. And what that makes them is friends. So they are kind of parallel keys. So if we are going to continue drawing on our circle of fifths, then we will get the A on the inside as a parallel to C. And then if we move 1/5, then we will get E. So E minor will be the parallel minor key to G major. And they will both have 1 sharp, and we can do that for the whole circle. And isn't it lovely? Isn't it just like a beautiful system? I think so. Anyway, now let's talk about chords, which is why you all came here. So to play C major, the chord C major on the piano, we start with C, of course. And then we stack on top of each other. This is a 3rd interval, and those can be both big and small. And major chords have a big 3rd and then a small 3rd. And what about the minor chords, you might ask? Well, they have a small 3rd on top of a big 3rd. So you can hear the difference between the major and the minor. Ooh, very sad. Ooh, very happy. Very sad. So if we just keep stacking like every other white key in the C scale, then we get the C major, and the D minor, and the E minor, and the F major, the G major, and the A minor. And you notice that some of the chords were major chords and some of the chords were minor chords. Let's take the major chords first. So then we have the C, of course, the root chord, and then we have the F and the G. And this is where the concept of harmonic functions or functional harmonics or functional harmony or whatever, funksjonsharmonikk in Norwegian, comes in, because they all have a different role and a different function. And the three main functions that we just played are called in Norwegian tonika, dominant, and subdominant. In English, they're called somewhat the same thing. We have the dominant and the subdominant, and then we have the tonic, I think. The gin and a tonic. Yeah. And those are very important functions. I prefer to not talk about them with those names. I prefer to use the numbers. So we have the first chord, and then we have the fourth chord, and the fifth. And the others also have numbers, of course. We have the second, which is a minor chord, and we have the third, which is also a minor chord, and the sixth, which is also a minor chord. Very nice. So, as I said a while ago, the different chords create different tensions that makes us want to go back to the root chord, and especially the fifth, which is called dominant, and especially if we add the 7 as well. This is a G7, and we really want to go back to C. Very nice. And you can create other kinds of tensions as well. You can go from the fourth to the fifth and then to the sixth. I like that, it's very nice. And you might recognize that it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. So this is a very common way of playing music, and both in classical music and in pop music, these kinds of structures are very usual. So you will hear them all the time. So now you know what kinds of chords that you can use in the C major key. So if you have a song and you know that it is in the C major key, or you hear that it kind of wants to end up here, and you're trying to figure out the chords, then you know that you are not supposed to use D major, for instance, because that doesn't really belong in the C major key. You know that D minor will probably be a better fit, and so forth. And now let's talk about transposing, because that's fun. So if we are going to play the D major key, then we have somewhat of the same system. So in the D major key, we have the root chord, which is D major. And then the second will be a minor, and that's E minor. And then we won't get F because we are using F sharp. So what we get next is an F sharp minor. We are using two black keys, as you might remember, so that's why we are also using the C sharp. And then we get the fourth, which is a major, and that's G. And we get the fifth, which is also a major, an A. And you see that by using the C sharp, we get A major instead of A minor. And then we have the sixth. And then we have the sixth. It's the hardest thing to say. Sixth. And that's also a minor chord. And that's B minor. So now you know that if you want to transpose a song from C to D, then you can just think about the steps and you can fill in the chords that's supposed to be there. So now I'm going to give you a little assignment. First, you take a piece of paper and then you write the numbers from 1 to 7. This is actually supposed to be in like Roman numbers. I don't know why, but you can write them in normal numbers or in Roman numbers. And then beneath the 1, you write C. And then you write D for the second and E for the third and so forth. And you can add the little minor for the chords that are minor chords. That means the 2nd and the 3rd and the 6th. And then you can add all the different keys. So you will get the C key with all the chords that belong to the C key. And then underneath that you can write the D, and then just do the same thing. Write D, E, F, G. It's all about the alphabet. So just fill in all of the numbers and then write a little M for minor, for the kind of steps that are minor chords, and then do that for all of the keys. So now you have a full visual representation of all of the chords that belong to the different keys, and that will help you a lot when you are trying to figure out what to play. Of course, not all music is made this way, and it's a very simple way of looking at it. You can use chords that doesn't really belong to that key to make another kind of effect, and sometimes songs will moderate to another key and so forth. In some songs, you also use both the major and the minor version of a chord to create another effect. Like this recent example. There comes a time in a young man's life, he should settle down and find himself a wife. Okay, so I guess that you now have all of the tools that you need to figure out what chords you can play. Let me just find my ukulele. We can do the same thing on the ukulele. So we have the C major chord system, if you will. So we have the C major, and then the second will be the D minor, and then the E minor, and the F, and the G, and the A minor. Yeah, I like to end up where we belong, on the root chord. One last thing that I wanted to show you. I think I'm hiding my ukulele behind my microphone, but we talked about parallel keys and how one major key had a parallel minor key, and that's the same way with chords. I think they're called relative minors in English. So we have the C major, and then we have the A minor, which is kind of the relative minor to the C major chord. And all of the major chords have a minor relative, or a relative minor, that belong to them. And if you are watching the circle of fifth, then you can see all of the minors inside of the circle, and that will be the parallel minor. So let's say that I am writing a song and I notice that I use the G major a lot. What I can do to change things up is that I can try to change some of the G major chords with the E minor. And that can work quite well in quite a few places, so that's a little trick to know. And that makes it really good to know all of the relative minor chords to the major chords. So, for instance, we have C and A minor, and we have G and E minor, and we have F and D minor. And what you will notice when you play this on the ukulele, I don't know if you can see my fingers, but the major and the minor chords that are kind of related often look kind of similar as to how you put your fingers on the fretboard. So for instance, you have the F with the first fret second string and the second fret fourth string, and then for D minor, which is the relative minor, you just add the third string on the second fret. And the same goes for A major, which is the first fret third string and the second fret fourth string. To play the relative minor, which is F sharp minor, you just add the second string, second fret. I just think it's really interesting because it is kind of like these systems that when you look at it, it all kind of adds up. And that's why I am kind of geeky about this stuff. And maybe it was a lot of information if you're just starting out with learning the ukulele and now you're like, what? Why do I need to know about the circle of fifths? You don't have to learn the entire circle of fifths to play the ukulele, obviously, but I just think it's nice. It gives me a sense of structure in a chaotic world. So yeah, that's why I wanted to mention it. And I think it's nice to just have an overall understanding of how the different chords belong together, because now you know that the fourth step and the fifth step in a key will be major chords, and that they will function to create some kind of tension in the music, and that most music in like Western classical traditional music and in basic pop music will have a kind of structure that creates tension and that want to end up on the first root chord. So I hope that it was kind of helpful, even though it maybe was a lot of information if you're new to this kind of stuff. If you're not new to this kind of stuff, maybe it was too basic, and I'm sure there are a lot of sources that will go more deeply into these different topics. But yeah, this was just like a general kind of basic introduction to this way of thinking about music. And I hope that it helped. And I hope that you will get some usage out of your scheme that you made with all of the chords, and that will help you in figuring out what to play, even if it's your own music or if it's someone else's music. And maybe it will even help you to be able to transpose some songs to a different key and stuff. So yeah, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments beneath this video, because I always answer all of my comments. And if you want me to talk about some more musical theory stuff, then just ask and I will probably do it, because I think it's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm here to answer all of your questions if you have any, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye! I forgot to say subscribe. Subscribe to my channel and thumbs up and stuff, you know, all the things. Okay, bye!